What is poppin', everybody? Happy Friday, the last Friday of May, which is crazy. I'm Kerri Lewis, your host of No Particular Reason, alongside of my fabulous co-host Yankov. And we have an incredible gift for you, my cousin. I'm Stillfish, and I love him very much. Ian Matthew Harrington. I'm going to let Ian share with you what it is he does, because he can share with you way better than I can. But we are here for no particular reason, and we're excited to see what Ian wants to bring to the forefront of conversation today.
Oh man, what I look, we're all in this process of exploration and becoming who we're meant to be, right? Whatever that is. And in my work, in my conversation with Kerri, I I've come to a deeper level of truth around what's happening for me, Kerri, and you've helped me through some tremendous transitions in my life, for which I have tremendous gratitude for you. And recently, I have kind of felt myself just like leaning into ego a lot. Like, and we were talking a minute ago about competition, and it's like feeling unhealthy. I'm doing this comparing myself to others stuff that I know is unproductive. I know it's unproductive, but I'm still doing it. Right. And, and we can get into the blame game of, oh, well, I, haven't been doing this and I got off my regimen of this and right. But on the other side of that, there are the things that I'm continuing to do. And regardless of what has happened, my challenge today is to have a conversation around what's happening when I sort of fall off my regimen and see myself falling into ego, and then get back on course. How do I course correct, or how do I learn from the experience of stepping back into ego and kind of getting it caught on my heel, and now I'm feeling like it's crawling up my leg. Anyway.
I love it.
Well, before we dive into that, we have a surprise guest, Miss Gail Kraft, joining. I wanted to give you the floor before she jumped on. But evidently she wanted to say what up to, and since it's for no particular reason, she knows it's for no particular reason. There's always a party up in this place.
I'm fangirling so hard right now. Hi, Gail.
I love it. It's so funny because you and Ian are bringing the colors. I was like, wow, me and Yanko are very muted today. I mean, I'm always black, so let's just be real.
It's a bright black.
And so I would say that first off, thank you for being vulnerable, because that's a really powerful place to allow yourself to be, especially with our listening audience. And then secondly, Yanko and I, prior to you joining and going live, we were talking about experiences and being busy. And I think, for me, we all ebb and flow into ego. It's just being able to bear witness to that. And then what are the practices you lean into to then ground and to love? And that's really about awareness, which I know Yanko and I talk extensively about, because if you're not aware, you're just going to continue to operate in that ego, and create that suffering, because you suffer, I believe, in ego. So
not only suffer, but I want to point out that sometimes you operate out of like autopilot mode, because you're allowing your programming and everything to take over, and you're not really living life. It's just like you go in an automatic, like an auto mode, and then things are happening around because you're not aware of it. If you're not aware of like what's going on, your thoughts, it's like not being aware of your surroundings. Like, where are you? Kind of in a way. So, yeah.
I'm just laughing as the weed whacker guy goes by.
I was laughing at it too. Look, he looks like Darth Vader.
Oh my God, I love that.
He's going.
Yanko,
I love. As much as I love this office, it's great.
Well, I mean, I like the green.
Background I've ever seen, Yanko. That's really colorful.
I know.
Thank you.
To the point, um, recognizing you're an ego. I mean, if you use ego to produce, it's just what are you trying to produce and where's it coming from, right? I ask myself. It's not that I don't tap into ego to achieve results. It's what is it that I am driven by that is causing me to take action? Is it fear? Right? Which means then I am going along with the program that Yanko just suggested. Or is it love? Right? Am I just being moved by love? And then it feels much different. It's like a flow. You don't even think about it. It just feels like the right thing to do. So I know Gail will say something about this too, that ego is not a bad thing because otherwise you just be sitting in bliss your whole life. And that's true. But we do have a responsibility once we're aware of our programs, behaviors, and beliefs to ourselves to ask ourselves the questions, what is motivating me to make this choice? Right. So I know that we discussed productivity, right? Producing for whatever, like a job or even as a parent and stuff. And I work very consciously to make choices from love, i.e., yesterday I cleared my plate. I did not work with one client because I just knew that I did not have the capacity to come from a space of pure love. I just didn't. And so I just didn't. And that to me was a loving choice because it was a way for me to honor myself in the place I was in and honor the individuals that I love enough to know that I can't serve them at that moment.
But this reminds me of, Kerri, is, that I want to be sure that I'm honoring my rhythm, right? Honoring my rhythm. And sometimes my rhythm tells me to shut down the computer and get the fuck away from it and go do something, go for a walk, go for a nap, it's okay to chill out. And, you don't have to be on all the time. You do need to recharge, but making choices, ego has a role to keep you safe. Therefore, ego is always looking for fear.
Yep.
That's ego's job. Fear, and it'll make it up. Well, that's fearful. And my job is to say, thank you, ego. I see that is real. Or ego, that's not real. Thank you, but out of the way. Then once I recognize the situation, it's my choice on how I respond to it. And this is where you're saying, and I love you, Kerri, is to respond as high a frequency as you can towards love.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because any choice, and I use the hothouse tomato example all the time, made from anything other than love is probably not going to be the best choice possible. You can still create a tomato in a hothouse. And you can create a tomato outside in nature. Which tomato is delicious? You're still going to create a tomato, but one's going to taste like cardboard and one is going to be really yummy.
Well, that goes to force versus power, right? Yeah. I mean, and I always use that when I'm working with myself and others. Yeah. Sure, you and I both, and all four of us actually, because we all have worked in corporate. Ian has his MBA, right? We have all used force to create results, to achieve, whatever it is. But it didn't feel great. There was a lot of stress, most likely. I mean, for me, I know that I was, less grounded, more reactive. And so now it's, what do I need to do to ground in love so that whatever choice I make comes from power? And sometimes, to your point, Gail, that power is saying, I'm shutting down everything and not showing up. And I'm 100% okay with that, right?
Yes.
And let me just say, I'm perimenopausal, so I think that's going to be happening more and more. And being able to be like, oh, this is an interesting experience now. That's really important. I'm curious how that lands for you, Ian.
Right, Ian.
Well, I'm reminded of the podcast I did my podcast, ORBs, Organizations of Resilience and Belonging, on Monday. And what I was talking about is the return on investment in investing in community, right? What's the ROI we're looking for? And in the first force versus power paradigm, that force, right, that I've exercised, that you pointed out actually so accurately, Kerri, it gets you that short-term result. It gets you that quick fix of, yeah, I'm doing something, I'm accomplishing, I'm, and it's that little data point of I'm successful, right? Whereas the power paradigm really looks at the long term, right? It's that long range vision, that sustainability, right? Of what are we actually trying to achieve over the course of our lives, right? What do we want our obituary to read? What do we want our epitaph to read, as opposed to, checking off the boxes of we accomplished something? And I think that's exactly it. I mean, Gail, to hear you talk about ego being healthy, which again I get, but that it's a tool that we've developed through our evolution to identify risks, to identify threats out there, and just being in gratitude of our tools working. Thank you so much, ego. I appreciate you being there, right? And now, and so that's it, really. And what I messaged Kerri about is like, so I'm feeling fearful. I'm feeling in ego. I couldn't identify it as fear, like previously, but I'm there now, and I'm trying to tune into how is it useful, right? How is the message that my ego is sending me? How is this recognition of fear useful to me in this moment, in this season of my life?
Right. It's waking you up to something.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
Yeah, and so it's waking you up to a belief that was embedded subconsciously that you can so when I sit in fear, I'm not necessarily resistant to the fear. I'm like, ooh, there's something coming up for me that I need to address.
Right.
And so, and here's the beautiful thing. Scripture says that ask and you shall receive. And this is where I think people get caught up. So I ask and let it go. I'm not chasing that. I'm not going and feeding my ego by saying, okay, so it could be this. And when I was a little kid, I did this and this. No. Okay. I am recognizing there's something there. So I'm thus asking whatever, collective consciousness, creation, whatever you determine, to provide me with what I need. And then I let it go and I go about my business. And that's when we talk about those aha insight moments, when you're going along and you're on a walk and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got it. Right. Because otherwise, and this is where I say humanity's addicted to thinking, we're like, oh, I get it. There's a belief I got to pluck out. And then we start using
I love you guys.
logic to keep us in more fear, because we're going, it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that, and then we're actually going down the rabbit hole and feeding the ego that we just would notice and was like, oh, I get you, I see you.
Kerri, I call it coach-a-babble, because a lot of the training that coaches receive is look for the story, look for the root cause, look for. And I do the complete opposite, as do you. It's like, what's the energetic situation right now that's happening? Because otherwise I'm attaching a story to it. And every time I try to understand or solve or get through or any of the other BS, I am distracting myself from the moment that the ego is saying, hey, wake up right now. And I might not get the right message because I'm not looking at right now. Right. And I do exactly what you do. I'll lean in by saying, ooh, something is coming up that feels really icky. Don't know what you are. You can come up and let me know when you're ready. And I release the pressure of trying to understand it.
Yep.
And by releasing the pressure, it can come up.
And I think
Right.
I kind of do something similar. Like, isn't that interesting? Or I wonder what this is. Or has to do with anything. or with whatever it's coming up, and that keeps them right in that moment, in not like thinking or going anywhere. It's just like, okay, let's see what this is.
And
Yeah.
that's when I lean into care, like practices that are nurturing. What Gail said, right? It's like, oh, okay, I now gave my subconscious, my ego, whatever, permission to convey what it is I need to understand, and then I'm like, oh, let's go sit outside and color. I've been on a skull
Yeah.
coloring journey lately, or whatever, and I do that, and it both allows my brain to like just be open to receiving what it is I'm meant to heal. And also, I'm doing something that brings me back to joy because I'm nurturing myself in that moment. But I'm curious because I think, and I could be wrong, but Ian and
Mhm.
Yanko, I mean, you work for organizations, right? And so I am always fascinated to ask people, and I help my clients incorporate tools. Uh, how do you ground? How do you recognize you're operating from this ego you're trying to produce? And then ask, the question, and then ground in the moment while you may be in the throes of working for an organization. And I have my thoughts, but I'd be curious what any of you have to share about that.
Well, I'll come in. I think we have, it's the double-edged sword of remote work, in my case. And so when there's a situation that emerges for me, this situation here, it's not paralyzing, but it is preoccupying, right? And I'm very much in the, what am I supposed to learn here, and kind of scratching at it, which is just forcing it down, just what you described. So thank you, because it helps me remember to just let go. I have asked the question. Let it go. But so I can do that. I can be here in that. And I was fortunate enough to be, when I was in office all the time, I was fortunate to be surrounded by people who understood that paradigm. There were times when the work couldn't be set aside, when it was go time. But there was also at least a moderate level of understanding and appreciation of self-care, and taking space and making sure that we're 100% ready for the next thing, as opposed to just go. But I said that the remote work is a double-edged sword, because I do get energized by being around folks, and I know that my presence has at times been useful to other people, whether it's calming or grounding or just helping organize thoughts. And so not having that on a regular basis is, I lose out on opportunities to connect and deepen my relationship with the rest of my team, in those ways that just come up naturally when you're in the same space. So hope that answers your question.
I have so much to say, but I'm gonna wait.
I was gonna
Great.
say this is why people invented the emojis and other things, because that way you can send your emotion to the other person or a situation that'll kind of explain your feeling, and then you can have a deeper connection. But yeah, nothing beats the in person. When you're with somebody, you can still feel people over camera, and get their vibe and everything.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know about Chad and everything else, but he brings up really good points. Back in the day when I was doing a lot of stress, there wasn't that knowledge of how to handle that go, or understanding of like there's better ways to do it, or how to like take the stress out or work in a calmer environment, because that leaves you do less mistakes because you're not stressed out. You're actually more productive when you're more calm and when things are happening, instead of go. Because like in the go, you're not like really checking things and you're just doing for the sake of doing. But when it happens to me, it usually comes up and I sense it in, or there is a sense that that's happening. I don't sense it. And then there's a laughter. because it's like, oh, it's coming up. Oh, there it is. You got me. You know what I mean? And it turns it into more kind of fun. And if it's like really something that needs to be like processed through or filled through, then I will just do or whatever it needs to be done. Walking, grounding in nature, allowing whatever happens to happen, and then it's like, oh, no, it's different. So let's see what brings me more joy. Whatever brings me joy. That's how I do it. Does that answer your question, Kerri?
Well, it does. So here's the thing. It's interesting. So I work with a lot of people who have high stress jobs, and what came to mind for an individual I was working with, they are a special needs teacher and like high stress, high go, 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 go. So we practiced examining different tools that felt really good for this individual and landed on a smelly candle. So my encouragement to this individual was, while you are in a high stress situation in the classroom, take the candle and smell it. But because it's special needs, I'm like, what if you get smelly stickers and then you give the stickers to the kids and you start to educate them? Okay, we're feeling some type of way. Let me lean in and smell my candle, because we know that that at least is going to regulate ourselves. You may, and what I share with her is, there are times when I have to like huff on that candle. I'm like smelling the crap out of that candle. I'm like, yep, down, right? Because it is a practice. And when you're so used to operating and feeling like you have to produce from that state, right? It takes a lot of effort to keep coming back to that candle. And yet that's a thing that is going to help you come to love and make a more a powerful choice rather than a choice that's forced. And my contention is, and I know I'm going to get heat for this, but there should never be a time when you're go, 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 crunch time, and you can't pause, because that is force. And I don't care if you have a deadline. And I learned this when I opened Nature's Remedy, and that was a wild experience. And it was go, go, go. And I had massive expectations and deadlines on me. But the more I tried to rally the troops through this, nope, guys, we just got to push, the more errors were happening, the less impactful we made it. So I finally said, nope. And I did this in many areas of different jobs, where I'm like, we're going to stop. We're going to stop the production line, and we're just going to reset. And because of that, to your point, Ian, short term, it looked like I was losing ground, because it does. It will absolutely present as I'm losing ground. But long term, we achieved, the metrics we were meant to achieve. We achieved, greater results, whatever. And so it is recognizing when you're being in that state of, I just got to do it, and you're like, no, I don't. And Thich Nhat Hanh says, or somebody says, and I love this, when you're like, I got to sit down and meditate for an hour, but I don't have time, that's when you meditate for 2.
It's like, look in the mirror and say, I love you. And when it hurts, say, I love you some more.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Say, I love you some more. Kerri, I used to be a program manager and a leader in business. And I'll share one of the stories about my first day at a job at a small company called GE. And I walked into the meeting, and my customer was presenting. And I walked out with my boss, day one. And I said, I'm concerned that the first project you're putting me on is one that will fail. And she said, well, why is that? I said, you have all these pretty Six Sigma tools, but you don't even have the right people in the room. And you have a deadline that is not ever going to be met. I want to take this over and straighten this out. So she said, Madeline will gladly hand it over. So I took it over, and I went to the VP, who was the sponsor, and said, why is this a deadline? What is so important to this date, because we will not make it? And he said, well, I have a bonus tied into a live transaction happening by the end of the year. I said, we will test by the end of the year with a live transaction, but we won't be fully live for 3 more months. So he got his bonus because we had a live transaction successfully processed, and my team had the time they needed to actually get it implemented properly at their pace and with the right checks and balances and whatever. And so it's the process of questioning the why. Right? Why?
Yeah.
Why is this so important? And today I did a live with my friend Florian, and I must have said 2 or 3 times, don't get your pants in a twit. It seriously, relax. Step back.
I want to jump in here because this ties into something that's unfolding with my daughter, Billy. Sorry, babe, I'm putting you on blast, but I love you. So she's not Julia, and Julia is driven academically. And it's not that Billy doesn't achieve high results, because she does, but she does not give a rat's ass about awards, and she doesn't care. And so anyway, and I love her because she's so sarcastic like her mama. She had agreed, I don't know, 6 months ago or whenever, to sign hold for a referendum for our town for school budgets. It happened to be on the same day of the week that she gets to go see her father. She sees him once every other week on weekends, and right. So she went to the teacher, and the teacher literally reprimanded her. Well, there's really a very important need to follow through on your commitment. So she was very, very stressed. Well, fast forward, Nana and I happened to get her tickets to go to Halsey. Well, she's being awarded an award the same night Julie's getting an award. Julie wants to go to the award ceremony. I said, Julie, I'll go to your 12th grade award ceremony, but your 11th grade award ceremony, I'm going to Halsey, and Billy's going to Halsey. And she was so terrified. She's like, all these teachers are going to think I'm not responsible, and that I'm like, why? What is it? I was like, do you think that this teacher or these teachers are going to have an influence or impact on you in 1 year? Well, no, but okay. So let me ask you this. What is going to fill your heart with joy? Going to the concert. Well, you have your answer, and your job is not to concern yourself with how they view you, because at the end of the day, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I showed up for myself in a way that made sense for me, and it's never going to make sense for somebody. It just won't.
Never, ever. Yes.
I love this.
Other people cannot be satisfied. I actually have someone that I did a collaboration with, and one of the things he said was, showing up to satisfy the needs of the audience. I said, I'm not going to do that. And he almost fell off his chair. He says, what do you mean? I said, there is no way I can get on stage and have there be even one person in the audience where I'm going to know what their belief system, upbringing, biases, viewpoint. I'm not going to know anything about that. All I can do is feel the energy in the room and address the energy the best I can.
Yep.
And those that don't get it, that's their story, not mine. I am not responsible for anyone's story but my own. It's just, and that is where in business, I was put on the spot of always satisfying someone else. And I'll give you another example. I was doing a PowerPoint for a presentation. 3 different leaders were reviewing that PowerPoint separately. 23 revisions later, I said, I'm not changing this again. There was one time where a director said, why did you change that slide back? I said, because my boss, who's the VP, said to. I think the 3 of you need to talk and get me out of the middle.
Well, that's the thing. You can't and that's, again, that's why.
Wow. I won't even allow myself to be in that kind of situation.
Well, this was quite a few years ago, and I certainly wasn't awake.
I feel like we've all been in those situations. I know I am sure. But again, it's practice, and But interestingly enough, I imagine you've experienced much like me. Again, I remember halting the production in a back room for Nordstrom. We were piled high with 24 pallets, and it was around holiday season, right? I had the regionals visiting the store, and I could stand by it. I'm like, listen, these people don't know how to process effectively, so you're wasting money. I'd rather halt the train and train properly. And yeah, in the beginning, it's going to look like a hot mess express, but trust and believe it's going to make sense. We picked up well over $1 million over our projected sales. So it is doing what truly makes sense to you. Like, again, that love, it's coming from love. It's not going to make sense to even the people that you report to sometimes. But if it feels right, you stand by that with conviction, and you'll get the results that you're looking to achieve. Sure, I truly believe that.
This is the practice, the principle of transparency. You know, Joy, in your early career story, right? And just saying, why is this a deadline, right? Having the courage of your convictions, right? You know what you know. And you needed to understand, like, what is this about? Like, why is this seems arbitrary to me. Is it useful? And then you got an explanation as to why it was useful, and you were able to work with it, right? Kerri, that you were transparent with why the train needed to stop right here, right? This may not look like you expect it to look, but trust and believe, and that your team, I'm certain that your team felt better validated. And the long-term effect of that is the retention, right? And the way, not just retention within the organization, but your retention, the retention of your integrity, the retention of your personal energy, and how they feel about you as a trainer and someone who can lead them, and that they can take that and move forward. There have been 100, teachers and managers and supervisors in all of our lives, I'm sure, who were just like, just get to the top of this hill, and I don't care how you do it, and I don't care how it feels. And we have no interest in working with them further, right? So I love these vignettes into your lives, because it's about that, having the curiosity, and then living or creating a world where the transparency is present, that we can work more effectively. This touches all of my work in community.
Well, I also want to highlight. So, right, I know I talk extensively about energy and the power of energy and authenticity, and this is where I want the listening audience to truly understand. When we're in spirit, we're co-creating with creation. Like, that's truth. And so some of the decisions I made, as I look back on now, reflect a lot, but it just came to me. It made no sense to me even. It's kind of like, when you do something and you say, I have no idea why I did that. That is co-creating, right? So I couldn't have even said to you, Ian, oh no, I sat back and I examined it, and this is what I needed to do. No, I really didn't. Like, I just knew. And because I had such conviction in that knowing, energetically, I got the buy-on my team, because I had that, like, it was just bam. And then, and then I was able to speak to it after. And I think that's where I am constantly encouraging people. If you're called to see it, say it, do it, like, just don't stop yourself, because that's where your power lies. That is your juice. And that's when you're literally in co-creation. Like, you are tapped in the spirit, whatever that means for you, whether it's your own soul, somebody else, whatever.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. The practice of transparency and curiosity with others, it starts with us, right? What's going on with me? And it's not that we dig and dig and dig until we find an answer. It's that we just ask the question, and then we put it out there, and allow ourselves to operate in intuition by just, this feels wrong. What feels right? And Yanko, right? If it doesn't feel joyful, I don't need to do it. Right? It's not, why am I doing it? Let me stop doing it. It doesn't feel joyful.
And I love that. I no longer have to explain myself. When someone asks me why, because I don't want to, or because I want to, period. Right. And if they push, I just walk away. I do not have to explain what the universe nudges me to do, because the universe doesn't explain to me. It just says, do this. And I've done some bizarre things that the universe has said to do. And then months later have gone, oh, that's why I was nudged this way. Right.
Now,
Right. I'll give a quick,
we'll have answers.
I'm in the process of going on the road again.
On the road again.
And I don't know if I'm ever coming back. Right. I mean, yeah, I will, but
because you'll never come back the same anyway.
No, this is going to be amazing. And, but I have certain things that make this home base. Two of them are doctors. Well, my oncologist has left the state and gone, and she's not doing the work she was doing before. So even if I followed her, she's not doing oncology work. And my surgeon is leaving. The two that I love and adore that manage my care, the reason I keep coming back, are leaving. I can go anywhere.
Yep.
Because I have to find new. Right?
Yeah.
No,
So the
they'll find
universe
you.
is clearing the path for me.
You won't find them. They find you.
Yes.
If they need to, they probably won't.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put you on blast, Yanko, because I love you. So me and Yanko were talking earlier, and he was like, I'm doing, but it's just what I am gonna do right now. And so to your point, Ian, sometimes we make a choice just to operate an ego. Like we do. I do. It's like, okay, and I'm just got to do all this stuff. And I think that's an important point for the listening audience to hear too. Like, I know that I am not going to feel as good if I'm operating from a place of force. I know that. But does that mean that I never do? 100% no. I do. And so it's giving myself grace in the fact that I am having a human experience, which means I do put expectations on myself. I do, maybe overcommit and stuff. But then again, when it feels yucky, I may say, oh yeah, I know it feels yucky, I'm still doing it, and I do it. And and this is where free will and taking responsibility for your choices. Like, I'm sorry, but like, we just have to, this is why I encourage people all the time, like, good, bad, right, wrong, it doesn't matter to me about that, but I will take responsibility for the decisions, the choices I make moment to moment. And sometimes those choices make me feel icky, and I have to own that too.
Mm-hmm. I like the conscious awareness, and the first of all, just the recognition that we have a choice is so powerful, right? And many folks that I speak to they're not cognizant of that, right? Because we've got a world that tells us, no, this is the way that things need to be, and the act of questioning that is extraordinarily powerful. And so I'm curious about that, Kerri, and I want to chew on that a little bit. But the choice to operate in ego, but then not get stuck, right? Because I think those of us who've stepped out, who have found a way to step out of ego, choosing to come back to it, it brings up some fear in me, right? Just thinking about it, just saying those words right now, because I can still remember being trapped, right? Feeling trapped and feeling like the environment is such that there's no way for me to operate in any other modality. There's no way for me to step out of ego. I just need to hammer forward. And I think there's an environmental friction that can keep me there. I can say that. And so confronting that, living intentionally in ego, but then being able to step out of it, And I think that's
I
a muscle.
want to jump in.
Let me use a metaphor. We all have to use that.
I feel like
This is
Yanko
so
gets
exciting.
because Yanko is the quietest one. So go ahead, Yanko.
I was gonna say this is so exciting because the ego, it's so good at crafting stories and taking faces and
Yes.
doing
It's job.
things. The ego, it's gonna be the one who's gonna find the problem for you, mask itself, and then provide you the solution and say, here, but you don't have to be this way. And you get caught up on the drama of like, wait, is this the ego or is this the villain or what's going on here? You know what I mean?
All ego.
It'll play those games with you and you'll fall for it, you know? And this is what's happening right now. You're
Well,
falling for the
So,
games.
and I want to quickly use the moth to butterfly analogy. So, the moth creates a cocoon. And when we talk about a cocoon, we imagine safety in order for it to transform. But at some point, that cocoon becomes a cage.
Yep.
Right.
Mhm.
And so the safety that we look for, the balance, the security, the picket fence and the 2.5 kids and whatever, becomes a cage that we now have to get out of. And it hurts to get out of. Now we have to cocoon for a little bit.
Always.
In order to transform. But there's a point where it's time to get out of the cage. And ego will fight you from getting out of the cage until it realizes you ain't giving up. And then it will support you.
Well, so, and again, I agree. We do, like, because we're meant for expansion. So what is our cocoon is always going to end up being our cage. Always. Because we're meant to grow and expand. Now, depending on who you are and how much you're willing to like push your boundaries, we are limitless. So, and that's why I tell people, I have no idea who I'm going to be in a year from now, where I'm going to be, what I'm going to be doing. Because if I make that assumption, I've already caged myself. Does it feel yummy right now? Great. Right? Are there things that haven't felt yummy? Yeah. So am I at a point where I'm willing to move out of that? Sometimes I'm not. But I'm very, very clear that I've outgrown it. I'm very, 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 very aware of that. And then it's, how much discomfort am I willing to tolerate before I'm ready to say, fuck it, I'm out? And that's usually how it works, right?
Yeah.
And that's super important. And I encourage people all the time. I know when I'm operating from ego, when I feel icky, and I can drop right back into love when I feel yummy. And that's where, I know, Yanko, you're good at this. Me and I can't speak for Gail, but I imagine you too. I can be in a busy, office building. Chaos is ensuing and it no longer feels fun. So I'm going to drop into meditation. I'm going to drop into my heart center and I'm going to just sit in bliss for a minute. And I may just sit there and just be aware of what's going on. But I feel really, really good. I'm out of ego at that point. Mm-hmm. And again, it truly is a choice. So we do have the power to shift out and be in peace. Right now, that's a power of now. And then again, when I'm grounded, when I'm grounded, I'm incredibly brave because I know I have nothing to fear. If I'm grounded, I know that creation is co-creating with me and the path is cleared for me to move forward. If I'm not grounded, I know I'm going to experience force and I'm just honest with myself. And sometimes I don't ground. And when I don't ground, I feel icky and I own it.
And that's just it. Just you own it. There was a time. So I was leading a team, and I had a trainee literally sitting at my desk facing me. Like she had a desk facing my desk, so that if she had a question, she could just ask. And I was in my zone. I was like just cooking. And one of the staff came over, stood beside me, put some papers down, explained to me what it was that she was leaving because she was going on vacation that she would like me to follow up on, and left. And I had no clue she was there. Mm-hmm. And the woman that I was training went, I can't believe this just happened. You were not even aware that she was there. And I was like, who, what, where? So it's a good thing the trainee was there because she was taking notes for me. Right? But I mean, so we can get into our own world. This is our world. And we can determine to close out the noise, because that's what I do when I'm in an office situation. I have to close out the noise to focus on what I need to get done and the reason that I'm there. So the distraction doesn't bother me. And I literally don't see or know that anyone else is around. We have that much power to erase all of the bit actors and get them off of our stage.
I like watching I just kind of step and I watch the drama unfold, and it's like watching a movie on the TV. You watch the little people go around, they talk to each other. One is like really mad, the other one goes like, "Oh, you!" And you're like, "Ha ha ha! This is so fun!" And you sit on the side and you watch. It's amusing though. It's I don't know. It's also joyful in the moment when that happens. But I wanted to point something else back, talking about the ego. The deeper you go in you finding not arguing with your ego, but kind of growing beyond the ego starts to recognize that it's dying and it's no longer useful. And it'll get to a point when it'll even create sensations in your body of sensation of dying or fear, to like some people call it the dark night of the soul, where you're feeling like you're dying but you're perfectly safe, nothing is happening. But
Yeah.
it's like a thief, he has so many faces. So you'll see.
But that's again the very, like, that's why I say, you ask yourself, what do I need to do to feel joy right now? To feel good? And it's not
Right.
gonna make sense. Like, it just won't. But if it brings you back to feeling good, you're in love. And that's where our power lies. And
Yeah.
I continuously have to remind myself of that, and I just surrender to it. And kind of like I was saying earlier about sniffing the candle, sometimes I got to sniff that candle 1,000 times in an hour, but I keep choosing to sniff the candle, and I keep coming back to love. And
Right.
that's why in the Bible, right? And this goes to forgiveness, but it also comes to choice. Like, how many times do you forgive people? 7? No, 77. And of course, this was written 2,000 plus years ago. But how many times do you choose love? 7? No, 77. You
Every
choose
single
love
time.
as many times as you need to until you are back grounded in love. And it's that constant choice. And it
Right.
gets a lot easier. But in the beginning, I encourage my clients to take a nap, because it's an energetic
Oh yeah.
exercise of dropping into love, and you can feel really tired. So honoring that.
Sure. Sure. I love this, the sniffing the candle piece. And Kerri, you are a big person in my mind for creating the visuals, right? And so I've got pictures up around my office now, not behind me, but they're coming. And just having those, 5 senses opportunities to remind myself to ground in, right? You've got tattoos. I've worn jewelry in the past, right? But just having that visual piece, pictures of my kids are around everywhere. Like, these things that help me remember my why and help me ground and allow me to, like Gail's talking about, drown out the noise. This is what matters. This is how I feel with these people.
Yep.
Is what matters. How I feel within myself is what matters. The rest of this is going to sort itself out. And so yeah, this is good stuff. I don't know. Like, sniffing candles, looking at pictures, listening to music. I think, Yanko, in your story, when you talk about the chaos of the corporate scenario, right? I could just see myself holding a warm mug of coffee or whatever beverage, and just letting whatever happen.
That's right.
And being able to see it and experience it, and then maybe afterwards talking to both people where the conflict was happening, and say, do you guys see that you were saying the same thing? Do you guys see how you're both passionate about this outcome and helping them find common ground? I don't know. It came to me so vividly that I appreciated your story.
And the thing is,
and your joy
how
in it.
you ground is so individualistic. There's a million things, you know what I mean? Like one person might do this, like who knows? It's because all it's doing is bringing you in the present moment. Whatever it is, it's bringing you in this present moment, so your mind's not thinking. You're just in this. And those 5 senses, I mean, we have so many more senses than those 5, but when you're in this present moment, you're tapped into those senses that we aren't taught about in school, because you're in this present moment, you know.
I was gonna bring this up a little bit, because I listened to it, and it's in a way of anchoring, like how you anchor yourself to different things. Like you can use colors, you can use sounds, you can use whatever to connect an emotion or a feeling that you have, that you want to like reproduce. So it could be seeing different colors, or every time you go through a door, subconsciously you can tell yourself to feel joyful. Like every time you smell a flower, you feel joyful, or whatever way. So everyone has a way to anchor themselves to different experiences, if they want to use that as a tool to move from one emotion to another in different, scenarios, which is kind of nice way. When I first started, I didn't know that this existed and how that worked. So for me, it was kind of interesting, because I would touch my hands like that, or something else that'll anchor me, and it'll put me right back into like this trance state or whatever. Like I can be sitting in a chair and just put my legs up and start going into like I'm going within, kind of way. So yeah.
That's excellent. I'm glad that that's available to you. I've learned recently about positive intelligence reps, and just that little tactile, like brushing the fingers, or smelling a flower, smelling a candle.
Because you brought in the coffee, that's why.
Having these little practices for ourselves that to the naked eye can seem completely normal, right? Completely like not remarkable, and yet for us they're extraordinarily significant, because they shape energetically how we're going to face the next moment.
I start my day off with joy, 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 joy. 2 reasons. I'm reminding myself orally of joy, because I'm audio kinetic, so I get the audio, and then I move my body kinetic. Right? So that's the other thing, is know how you learn, know how you listen, and use that approach for yourself, because we're all so different. I used to be just kinetic, but I became audio when I became a coach, and I didn't have Zoom. It was just by phone. And I listened to how my clients were breathing or forming their words to know what was going on with them. Right. And so I learned how to tune in that way. I wanted to share, I wrote it, a few weeks ago, I have a friend who's passing. And I was with a group where someone found out for the first time that he had gone into hospice. So she started crying. He's a tender soul. And so her crying, I will cry if someone else is crying, and then we're all bawling our eyes out. Thank God, before we were live, right? And that sadness, I started thinking to myself, I'm not feeling this for him. I have come to terms with him and sent him my dragons and angels to help, right? What is this sadness, this profound sadness that I'm feeling? I know, don't try to answer that question, Gail. Just feel it. Stop trying to understand it. So I did. And that night, guys, dragons are around me all the time now. I literally sunk into my dragon as he put his wings around me and went to sleep, being cuddled so I could process through the sadness. The next day, I was with a few women who are very in tune. And one of them said, have you felt this profound sadness of the world? It's hitting like a ton. So I had opened up the sadness and got hit, not prepared for all of the sadness. And my process with the dragon alchemized. So I was alchemizing the sadness of the world that night. So sometimes what we feel, this is why don't try to understand it. It may not even be yours. Right?
Right.
Just allow it and love it. And it will transform.
Yeah, being down the road, thinking of like, why am I feeling all these other things that are happening, or feeling other people's emotions, or because like I can discern now, like when I'm feeling somebody else's anxiety or sadness or fear or whatever it's happening, or joy, like all different spectrum of emotions. And I come to conclude that because I'm one with everything, how can I not? And then by closing my heart and saying, oh, I don't want to feel this way, then I'm kind of separating myself from the one. So it's not like there is I don't know. I don't know how to put it to words, but it's interesting. I marinated on that same kind of thing, like where I want to be open to feel everything and be able to be one with everything and not close myself, because either good or bad, happy, sad, whatever emotion is just an emotion. It's part of the whole
Human experience.
Yep. So I don't even try
Ian,
to understand it anymore. Yeah. It's just like
you're like,
it is something that it's like yeah, because you, in that scenario, when you're describing that, you felt it, you kept your heart open because you were in that group with the share and everything, and you had the emotion. And I've had similar experiences, and I was so like, oh, this is icky, like I don't want to feel it, like but then at the same time I'm like, but I am part of the whole. So like, why pump the brakes? Like, you know what I mean? And kind of just sitting and being like, huh, not like really allowing, or maybe allowing it to just happen the way it is, and not trying to manipulate it anyway. Or not even like try to tell people, oh, it's going to be okay or whatever, because it's just something that is just processing, it's happening. Yeah.
And allow it. And you're like,
huge.
Things are coming out of your ears, smoke is coming out.
Yeah, no, I mean, because I think there's a couple paradigms. So my mother loves to consume the news. Okay, she loves to watch what's on and gets really kind of agitated. And she's got she's really active on Facebook. Has gotten kicked off a bunch of times for things, but
my dad too. So you're not alone.
The ways in which we love her, right? No, I know I'm not alone. My mom is not unique in this, but she's really tied into that, and she'll come here. She's staying here tonight. Excuse me, and when I'm not around, she'll turn on the television. Now, I never have the television on except when I'm very intentionally watching something, and I never have the news on. And she's like, "But you have to be tuned in." And I said, "I don't have to be tuned in like that. I don't have to be tuned in that way. I can love the entire world." And she's like, "Not everyone." And I go, yes, everyone. I can love everyone. I can send my love out to existence. And I don't have to tune into that. I don't have to hear this. I don't have to receive it. It doesn't feel yummy to me. And I know it doesn't feel yummy to you, Mom. And it's just there for her in practice. She's got this narrative that says, I need to consume the news in this way. And so Yanko, for you to point out and Gail, for you to have your dragon vignette, that you were tuned into the world in the way that is appropriate, that's energetically fitting for you, right? It doesn't have to do with us only being receptive to the ego and the activity and the busyness and the noise. It has to do with us being tuned into the energy.
I was in conversation with someone one time, and they went on and on and on about all of the evils and the terrible, from the news. This is happening, that is happening, this is and I felt like a machine gun, boom, 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 right? Right? Like, oh my God. And I'm thinking, can you imagine being in that body? Right. So all these thoughts are going through my head while this conversation is going on. And so when he stopped, I said, and you want to know? There's love in this world. There's peace in this world. There's art in this world. There's music in this world. There's dance in this world. Right. And I went on and on and on. And I said, I choose that world. You can choose yours.
Right.
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 Yes, I know that stuff exists.
I don't even go out of my way to explain to people. I just go like, okay, this is you. This is fine.
Yeah.
This is what you need. You created it. You wanted it. Okay, that's fine.
I think so. In ego, I've tried to in the past explain, right, why I don't consume this and try to reason it. And I'm stepping into force at that point. I'm trying to convince them of a different, in my perspective, better way of life, right? But Yanko, I'm increasingly finding myself just like live and let live. And the best teaching that I can do is in demonstration, is in modeling. If I believe this is the right way to be, then I just need to be this way. And that gives the example, right? This is a way that folks can see and have access to the life that I'm talking about, that I'm proselytizing. I don't have to say it out loud. I don't have to convince anybody.
They won't even see you though. Sometimes it's just like blah, 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 blah. They just see you moving and they don't hear anything on the other side. You see that blank face. I don't know. I was marinating on something that happened. It haven't happened to me yet, to stumble upon somebody that feel like empty when you feel them and sense them on the other side. But I had that idea that came to there is beings that are actually empty in the physical, and it feels like that way. So I don't know if Gail had that experience or not, but that's kind of the same. So even if you try to talk some sense or do anything, they won't even see you. Like you're in two different realities. You're there, they're there.
I've actually experienced being on multiple, they're not on the same plane as me, right? Or I know that I've jumped a timeline because their history, what they're talking about, I was never there, there, at least not in this timeline. So it's really kind of interesting. We do need to go, sweetheart.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. Let's wrap it up. And any last words?
No, I'm so glad I had time to pop in. Go ahead, Ian. This was supposed to be your show, and I am such a hog.
No, Gail. You are not a hug. You are a gift, and this time was a gift, Yanko, to be able to connect with you again and share your space. What a blessing! I'm just tremendously grateful for you, and this has helped me in ways that I can't even articulate. And
wonderful!
I hope that is useful to your viewers.
You're welcome to come back at any time. It was really nice vibing with you. It was nice vibing with Gail. Kerri had to cut short because she had to go rescue somebody. Yay! Somebody was in crisis.
It was a cat in a tree. Yep.
She does. That's what she does.
But
so, Ian, just save the link, and if you happen to be on and you see that they're live, just do what I did. I'm crashing and link in.
Pop on. Yep. Happily. I learned a lot through this discussion and listening to the stories, your stories.
It's
just
nice
incredible.
To see you
Thank you. It's great to see you. We're doing a cocoa party. I know I'm not calling it right, but a cacao ceremony.
Oh, those are so awesome.
I love it.
Well, I'm gonna bring you in, Gail. I have a date to have a conversation with the person who owns
Let
the
me
cafe.
know. Let me know,
We're
because
gonna
I have
get you
some
down.
road trips
So,
planned.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I want to be sure that I'm around for you.
That's fine. Well, the next after that conversation is,
Oh, that
Gail,
would be
what's your
fun.
availability?
So much fun.
We'll figure it out.
All righty.
Well, let's wrap it, everyone. Say goodbyes. And if anybody out of viewers or listeners want to get in touch with us, our info, it's going to be in the comment box below, in the description. So we'll love to hear back from you. Ask us questions, your thoughts, anything, or might even jump in the show. We'll share the link, bring you in, hear your insides out, and that's pretty much it. And with that, I'm going to wish everyone a wonderful weekend. Last of the month. And
Bye.
we'll
I
see you
am going to
next
go do
Friday.
my dragon card readings. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.